You know, the best way to raise money is to have a good time. And the best way to have a good time in San Francisco is definitely by going to one of the events sponsored by our next guest, Executive Director of the Richmond Ermet Fund, Ken Henderson.
Thank you.
Now, you've been raising money and having a good time for how many years now for AIDS causes?
It's our 19th year.
Wow.
We never dreamed we'd be going. AIDS should have been over by now, but it's not.
Well, I think you raise a good point. I mean, AIDS should have been over by now, and I think a lot of us expected it to be over by now.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You've been part of this fight from the beginning with the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation, correct?
Right, yeah.
So 19 years, I mean, what, you were doing it from the cradle or something? I mean,
I wish, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. For those who may not know the history of the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation, tell us how it got founded and, you know, more poignantly, who founded it and why.
Well, it was founded by two moms, Barbara Richmond and Peggy Ermet, in honor of their sons that they lost to AIDS. Peggy and Barbara were lifelong friends. You know, their mothers were friends before they were born. They're native San Franciscans. And when John Richmond died in 1990, he was friends with a lot of the local performers, and they did a benefit for him. When Doug was dying, Doug was my partner, Joe Seiler and I's best friend, the moms called and said, "We want to do it for Doug, and will you help?" So we said, "Sure." And they said, "Great, here it is."
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but it's been an interesting ride from 19 years. Of course, in the early years, everybody wanted to get on board and support it and come to the events. 19 years later, AIDS has been around for now 30 years, over 30 years, and it's a little harder draw sometimes.
Do you think we're going through, is there AIDS fatigue?
Oh, yeah. And it's fatigue and it's apathy because it's been around for so long. People are tired of hearing about it, and for people who are under even 30, it's part of their life. It's not something that was new and impacted them all of a sudden.
Well, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but for people under 30, sometimes I get a sense that they don't consider it part of their life. They consider it not part of their life, that it's kind of over.
Yeah. Well,
which is wrong, we know.
Just young people, but a lot of people think that, okay, people have drugs now, they take a pill, it's like a vitamin, and they're fine. But it's a little more complicated. Yes, they're drugs, they're keeping people alive and healthier, but they're not tolerated really well by everybody, and they do have effects on the body that are not so pleasant.
Right.
I mean,
this is still an incurable disease.
Yeah, there's still no cure. We're getting closer. And I think probably within the next 5 years, there will be major advancements.
Right.
But we're not there yet. And what part of the message I'm always trying to put across to people is that we can sort of see the finish line out there, but let's not stop before we cross it.
Right. We all know, those of us who have worked in the trenches for many years fighting AIDS, HIV, using all of our talents and resources, that other groups have learned from our techniques.
Yeah.
Breast cancer especially, we know, has used the techniques practiced by early AIDS activists to get their message across. How have you, as an AIDS activist, and tell me if you think that's not the right title for what you do, changed and adapted your tactics to this brave new world of, well, AIDS is bad, but it's not as bad as it used to be? That's a hard message to sell.
Yeah, no, that's true. But it's partially what I just said, is you have to educate people that it's not taking a vitamin every day. You're taking medicine and you're going to be much better, but you're still going to have issues to deal with. It's not something that you want to have. It's not as visible as it used to be, and that's one of the problems. Fortunately, medical science has really helped with a lot of the syndromes like wasting disease and things that you would see a person and go like, he has AIDS, that's not true anymore. People are HIV positive and you can't tell. And that's good and bad because it's great for the person, but the message sort of gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, well, they used to say silence equals death. Sometimes invisibility equals death.
Right.
Now, one of the things that the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation has done a very good job of is keeping the issue front and center in a fun way, in a way that's, makes it sometimes easier to give. And one of those things is the annual Help Is On The Way benefit.
Right.
But I think what a lot of people don't realize, even those who go to the Help Is On The Way benefit, which is, to use a word I don't use often, fabulous.
Thank you.
There are other events you do throughout the year, and you've got one coming up at the end of April. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, April 28th is Dances From the Heart2. It's our second annual. Most of our shows and events are more like Broadway focused. They're concerts, musical shows. And rather than kind of reinventing the same wheel all the time, last year we were looking at our calendar and said, we've got a gap here we need to do something with. And I thought, why not dance?
Uh-huh.
You know, I've always been a fan of dance, and we actually thought about this a few years back, and timing didn't work, and we didn't have the contacts in place. But in the intervening time, we worked with a lot of different dance companies, we made contacts, and it's interesting because both New York and Chicago have long-standing big AIDS benefit
Yes,
dance
they're
events.
dance focused.
Yeah, San Francisco's never been able to pull that together. And last year when we started putting it out to the dance community, they all jumped on board. They all loved the idea. But for some reason, I think it was competition, when somebody within the companies were trying to organize, it didn't work.
Yeah.
We're like, you know, Switzerland with a neutral
Yeah.
territory.
Well, so talk about being Switzerland. How many different dance countries, as it were, or dance companies do you have taking part in Dances from the Heart2?
We have 11 companies right now, and it's mostly ballet and modern, but we also throw in some, we have salsa, we have an Indian dance troupe doing traditional Indian dance, we have a Polynesian, Tahitian dance company. I kind of look at it as the dance sampler.
Yeah.
That if you're not a big fan or you don't know a lot about dance or what to go to, here's a way to find out.
Yeah, and you've got some of the really popular dance candies in there. I mean, you've got Joe Good, you've got Smuin, you have ODC.
Yeah. We have basically the cream of the crop, so it's going to be a really great program. Last year when we premiered the event and just sitting in the audience watching it come together and unfold, I was really blown away. I thought, this is really beautiful.
Right. And what's the venue? Is it the Palace of Fine Arts like Help Us on the Way is at?
Yeah, we did it last year at the Cal Theater, which is about 450 seats, and now we're moving to the Palace of Fine Arts, which is double that.
Yeah, yeah.
So we need to sell a lot of tickets.
Need to sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you last year? Doing a new event is always like, ooh, scary.
Yeah.
But you sold well, so if you didn't think you could sell out that bigger theater, you wouldn't have moved this year, correct?
Well, we moved with a lot of thought. The Cal was closing for renovation, so that wasn't an option. The Herbst Theater is closing for renovation. That's not an option. So the available theaters left were either too small or moving into the Palace, which is
well,
bigger.
and there is an association with the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation to help us on the way at the Palace. It's kind of the place where, if you haven't checked to see where an event that the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation is doing something, it may be there, right?
We started there. We were there for a lot of years before we moved to the Herbst, and now we're moving back this year.
Yeah.
Both Help Us on the Way and this event will be there.
Right. How much money have your efforts raised for AIDS, HIV causes over the last 19 years?
It's a little over $3 million.
And, I mean, how many different groups have been impacted or helped by your efforts?
Last count was about 32 agencies, some of which are no longer operated. And that's one of the problems with the epidemic, is that because of the perception about AIDS and funding has really dried up for a lot of agencies, some have closed, some have merged.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine
changed.
some of the people to whom you've given money over the years aren't there anymore.
That's true. And fortunately, we kept some of them alive longer than they would have been.
Yes.
Several agencies came to us and said, Aguilas is one of our beneficiaries for our summer show, and he, executive director, came to me one day and said, the funds you gave us kept us from closing, because we were so critical at that point that if we didn't have some funding, we had no choice.
Right.
So you got us through the crisis, and that's what a lot of our funding does. We're not keeping agencies fully funded, but we're getting them through the crisis times, and we're helping them keep programs alive that might not have survived.
Right. Now, in our last few moments, obviously we want to help you sell tickets and get people to Dances from the Heart2, but your annual fundraiser coming up in August, Help is on the way. Can you give us any teasers about who we might see? I mean, it's always a surprise. What big stars might we get? Who can you talk about?
Well, we just started looking at casting the show, so we really don't have much of a lineup yet. The only one that we've really confirmed right now is Karen Mason.
Wonderful.
Big Broadway star. She's done a ton of things, and we just ran into her recently, and she said, "Oh, I want to come back. I want to come back."
Yeah.
So she's great, and we're just starting to put ask out for others. So I don't really have enough to talk about at this point.
Yeah, but it's because we want people to watch this and say, "Boy, I gotta take part in this," because I know I've seen people on stage that Help Us on the Way that I never thought I'd see live. I remember, seeing Desi Arnaz's daughter there perform live.
Lucy Arnaz.
Lucy Arnaz. I was like, wow, I never thought that I'd see her live. So a lot of great talent you usually get.
Well, we bring in a lot of stars from Broadway, TV, Hollywood.
Elaine Stritch I saw there.
Yeah, Elaine Stritch is there. A lot of American Idol contestants. I guess you can't call them contestants because they're no longer competing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's a real true variety show in a Broadway style vein.
Great.
And they're really fun.
Well, we look forward to having you back talking about that, and we hope that we'll fill the house for Dances from the Heart 2.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you.
Thanks. We've been speaking to Ken Henderson about the ongoing work of the Richmond Ermet AIDS Foundation and their upcoming fundraiser, Dances from the Heart 2. Next up, we speak to a longtime gay couple about what's next for them. What is the brave new world of gay senior living all about? We'll talk about it up next.